Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Washoe County Sheriff Darin Balaam joins us for the whole show. We're talking fentanyl, marijuana, and a whole lot more. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Hello, is this D&D Roofing?
Yes, it is. How may I help you?
You did such a great job on my roof. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner.
Oh, can I speak to your supervisor?
Sure.
How may I help you?
I love your work. May I speak to the owner?
I am an owner. We're all owners. Well, that's why at D&D we work so hard to keep your home safe and sound.
Oh, no wonder.
D&D Roofing and Sheet Metal. Local, employee-owned, here for you.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we are delighted to welcome back to the program Washoe County Sheriff Darin Balaam. It's a pleasure to have you back on the program, sir.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Let's start out with what I'd like to know is the end to a story that started a while back, which is the protests, the riots down in the city of Reno. It started out as a peaceful Black Lives Matter protest, and then later in the day, a different group came in, rioted, problems at City Hall. Did we ever figure out who these people are, who they were? Have we prosecuted them? What's the story there?
You know, so we did identify, and that day, about 22, I believe, were arrested. Unfortunately, out of those, the sad part was, traditionally when you see those type of protests, many times they're from the outside. The ones that day that were arrested, all but 2 were from our area. 2 were from the outside, 2 were locally, but there was a good handful that were from out of state. We identified them. If you remember, there were 3 African-American women that were all over the news with their slippers that were walking through the windows, smashed windows of City Hall. They were from the outside. And then a couple other ones were traveling that we had identified, a female that was on the news. She was, you saw her at Reno Police Department, and she was the one kind of inciting the crowd. She was one of the ones we identified with the help of Reno, and Reno went after her. But she was traveling all around the nation, going to many of these protests, and there was a group of them. Those, I don't know if Reno had that case, so they followed through on that. But I know the ones that were arrested and some of the ones we identified, we submitted, or we helped Reno submit warrants, our intelligence center identifying them for any charges that we had against them.
Okay, so what are your concerns going forward? Because I asked a lot of questions, your colleague Chris Hicks, the DA, and others on the program, about civil unrest at the very beginning of this COVID thing, because I looked at lockdown and went, boy, this is an opportunity for problems to arise. What's the situation now? Do you have concerns about people locally, people coming into the community?
You know, we always do. And so what we've done as a region, all law enforcement, even before this, is we have our Regional Intelligence Center. So it's not a fusion center. If people have heard about the fusion centers that are across the nation after 9/11, but we're an intelligence center, but we work very closely with all the fusion centers. So we always monitor anything that comes up. We monitor other protests, other events in our surrounding counties, surrounding states. And we always debrief those. We always look and anticipate all of our events. We do a threat assessment. So we see, you know, if there's events similar in other states, what's happened there? Or has there, for street vibes, we know some of that brings some of those outlaw motorcycle gangs to our area.
At one point there was a shooting at the Nugget a few years ago.
There was, and there was a shooting this spring at their spring event. So we know that some of those rivals. So what we do is we ramp up all of our teams regionally. And we make sure we're out there. We have plenty of resources that we put out there. And then we always talk to each other. So the chiefs, myself, we look at, you know, how can we keep this community safe? Because for those who want to peacefully protest, that's their right. We want to encourage that. But those who want to come destroy our community and break windows, smash windows, start fires, that's unacceptable. And so, you know, moving forward, we always make sure that we have a brief before. Even if it's in, you know, the city of Reno, city of Sparks, unincorporated, down in Carson, I worked very closely with Sheriff Furlong because he had a lot of, almost on a weekly basis, they had protests down at the governor's mansion. So we were always working with them, you know, what are you seeing? Here's what we're hearing. Do you need some resources? And then we shift those resources down. And some things we learned over all these protests was oftentimes it's better if you put us right at the front. It incites those that want that to incite law enforcement, to incite the crowd. So what we've kind of done is we've stepped back with our uniform presence. We put our unmarked presence into the crowd. But for the uniform, we kind of step back because then those that are trying to cause that havoc, cause that, incite that riot, there's no one to incite because we're not standing there as like the line. And so we've kind of implemented that, and we float around with that. We float with our intelligence center, and again, all of our undercovers, we put them in the crowd, and we just monitor very closely. And it starts ramping up, then we get ready, you know, and we now have horses, so we have horses we bring in. And everything that we need to, so that, you know, if they're problem children, like at the rodeo, we had a fight one night. We quickly went in, grabbed those. They were youth, mainly youth on that one. It wasn't a protest riot, but it was a good fight. But we went right in. We identified those that were causing the problem, and we got them out of the crowd before they could incite that crowd.
I was visiting Carson Valley recently, and at a meeting there, there was a private meeting, but there was discussion about the Black Lives Matter protest that ended up coming out of Carson City but going down to Douglas County. And one of the a couple of comments that I thought was interesting was, nobody realized how many AR-15s there were in the Carson Valley, and B, how many women were armed. Any thoughts on that? You know what, we had some of those, and that's a scary part. When we had our riots, we had people that were carrying AR-15s. Because we're an open carry state. It does heighten the response. It does, it causes that kind of uneasiness with everybody, no matter what side you're on. And so for us, we're always very, very leery of that. You know, that's again, we're an open carry state, that's our right. But when you start carrying automatic or, you know, semi-automatic weapons, ARs, because unless you have the proper, you know, stamps, you can't have fully automatic weapons. But when you start bringing those and openly carrying those into large groups, it causes everybody. So for us, it's a major concern. We just watch them. And again, that's where we put our resources into those crowds to make sure if we see any sign that they are, you know, wanting to engage somebody or active shooter and start opening up in the crowd, that we're ready to get in there as quick as possible. I remember years ago when the riots were going on in Koreatown in Southern California. I remember this video, these little old Jewish ladies cleaning up after the rioting. And I thought, boy, how brave those women are. And then the camera pulled back and there was a tank sitting there guarding them. And I just thought to myself at the time, you know, no matter how people feel about, you know, having arms and the government can't take over because we are armed, the reality is you guys have your own weaponry that, you know, the citizenry is not going to take over. No, and that's the one thing. It's about keeping us safe. And you know, the neat thing about this riot, growing up here and being here, was
the day after. It was horrible to see what happened because that's not what we want to represent to anybody that's coming to this town. This is a great place to live. But when people came out the next day and law enforcement came out and they were scrubbing everything and quickly cleaned it up, that's our community. And for law enforcement, that's what we need to promote is, you know what, we're out here, we're going to keep you safe. We're not going to allow anybody to come in and destroy it and then leave our community. If those are the ones that are traveling, as we heard all last year, and we've heard in many protests before and riots where they travel, and they bring their buses in, we don't want those groups here. If you want to come and enjoy our community, if you want to peacefully protest, then do that. But there's a line, and that line is when you want to start destroying property, that's unacceptable, and that's where law enforcement, we absolutely need to step in.
All right, let's take a break. More with Sheriff Darin Balaam of Washoe County after this timeout.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and Twitter, powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Events Center in Las Vegas. Host meetings and events on 2 floors. Stay in luxurious rooms and suites. Unlimited branding opportunities. Regional Italian cuisine by Chef Mark Segrisi. Flexible event spaces. Full buyout options. Visit ahernhotel.com today.
Before the masks, before the distancing, before the world changed, UMC was ready. Our response to COVID-19 began before the crisis did, with our own team of infectious disease experts who've spent their careers planning for this moment. With a pandemic response plan, we'd practiced again and again, and by blazing new trails in large-scale testing, including every patient we admit. Always ready. UMC.
7 at 7 is available anytime, anywhere.
I'm Riley Smith with your Vegas Golden Knights. Watch 7 minutes of nonstop news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Streaming on LVRJ.com and YouTube, powered by the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Washoe County Sheriff Darin Balaam. We had Elise Monroy on the program last week talking about fentanyl issues, and the information was not only stunning but shocking. How big of an issue is it for the Sheriff's Department?
It's a major issue. I just, as we've been watching, we have the Substance Abuse Task Force, and fentanyl is our #2 killer in this county right now.
Number 2.
Number 2. Methamphetamine still 1, but fentanyl is climbing up there as the #2. And it slowly over the last year and a half, it's slowly progressed. And I can tell you on our interdiction side, everything that we're seizing, almost everything we are seizing, whether it's marijuana, whether it's the harder core drugs, are all laced with fentanyl. And what's scary, unfortunately, in the last session, we changed some of the laws when it comes to trafficking. So as I displayed about a month ago on interview, it's 100 grams for level 1 trafficking. Well, that's about 280, depending on the pill size, to 400 pills of fentanyl, which they usually will cut into 4 doses. So that's anywhere from, 800 to 1,600 doses of fentanyl. It takes a very small amount, and so for us, that is coming across, and we're running across it, and it's a major concern. It's a very big concern of mine and my office. You're hearing stories of, we had one of my managers at a local supermarket. Her niece just graduated. On graduation night, smoked marijuana, laced with fentanyl, and died. And that's what we're seeing. This is a very, very potent drug. It's coming across the borders at a prolific rate. And unfortunately, with the changing in the laws, we have to get a lot of it. And I wish I would have brought a kind of an example so people could see. But it's basically if you imagine a baby food jar stuffed full powder, that's probably still not 100 grams of fentanyl. So for us to go after those that are truly pushing this onto our streets, it is very difficult. Our undercover teams are targeting it. We're looking for it. But when you start going to pills, they're anywhere from $15 to $18 a pill. So you're looking at $5,000 to $10,000 that you may have to put into a buy to get those people that are really pushing it out. And unfortunately, they're lacing it with everything because it is so addictive that They want those, the drug dealers want you to get addicted as quick as possible. So they're lacing it with everything. And so you may think, like this poor niece, you bought a joint or a little bag of marijuana, but yet it has fentanyl in it. And if you don't know, next thing you know, unfortunately, you're taking a hint and then you're falling over and you're dead.
Okay, so where is the pathway? I'm presuming out of Mexico. Where's the pathway that's coming to North Nevada? Is it through Las Vegas or?
It's through I-80. So I-80, we are a HIDA area. So what that means is high interdiction drug trafficking area. So the federal government, because of I-80 running all the way across the nation, the money flows from East Coast to West Coast, and then the drugs flow from West Coast to East Coast. So it's coming up California, and then it's shooting across I-80 all the way over into New York, Chicago on I-80. So that's the way we see a lot of it, but we're hitting trains, planes, buses. They are bringing it, and now that the dealers know and the cartels know, because we have cartels in our area, they are using other off-sites to get around our area because not every state is a HIDA area. So I always tell people, if you see Washoe County Sheriff patrol vehicles on the freeway and you wonder why at Verdi or clear out by Lockwood, those are our interdiction deputies that are out there trying to identify the drugs that are flowing. And last year we held the record for the entire state for seizures. So when it came to money seizures, drug seizures, we seize more than we do down in Vegas up here.
All right, so if you were going to give a percentage out there, what percentage do you think you're getting? Is it 10%, 5%, 20%?
I bet you 10 to 15. Because we're not out there 24 hours a day. They know our routes. They communicate very well. And when they start picking up on one way tactic we're doing, they'll change their tactics. So we're not out on the road, our team, all the time. We try to mix it up. But as much as we're seizing, there's a lot more that's flowing through.
Okay, so when you talk about cartels, and you said plural, there's always gang warfare between these cartels. Are you seeing that showing up?
We're not seeing a lot because of the drugs, but we are seeing gang violence go up. And are those cartels loosely affiliated with some of our local gangs? Absolutely. Is it over the drugs in our area? That's still more of the traditional over the turf. The bigger drugs are flowing through our area and they're going further East Coast because they can make a lot more money because it's harder to get drugs from over on the East Coast. So something that may go for a bag of marijuana here for $40, you take it to New York where it's harder to get across the states, and that bag's going to go for a couple $100s. So that's really the money, is if they can get their drugs from the West Coast coming up from California over to the East Coast, that's where the big money is. So our cartels are more about pushing. They do push drugs on our street, but we're not seeing the huge, because it's more of the turf battle. And our local gangs are loosely affiliated, but they're more just the traditional gangs that we've had in our community forever, where they claim a street or a neighborhood, a block, a park, and then they battle up. But they are involved with a lot of different types of crimes. And unfortunately, we are focusing. We have our regional gang unit. That's our longest regional team in the region. It's been around for almost 20 plus years. And so they are always consistently, and it's been picking up, and we're having gang violence out in Sun Valley where we traditionally didn't have it. Usually it's been in the urban areas, and now it's pushing out into the unincorporated areas.
With the legalization of marijuana, the pricing of marijuana has skyrocketed because of the taxes and all the other things that go along with making something legal. This is going to be a tough question, and feel free to not answer it if you don't want to, but is the cost of legal marijuana causing a problem because it's so high by comparison with the black market, that the black market is still thriving?
Oh, I can tell you the black market is alive and well. We set the record for the state in seizures of marijuana last year. We seized over 2,000 plus pounds in one stop. That was a record for the state. And what's happening is this, exactly what you said. For the legal marijuana, an ounce is $40. So what the black market and the cartels that are bringing in the marijuana from Mexico, or they're even growing it in our forests, because we've had several grows over the years, is they're just undercutting. So for that quarter ounce you may pay $40 at a dispensary, they're going to give you a half ounce for $20. So they're just undercutting the legal dispensaries. So the black market is, I can tell you, is alive and well. That's the majority of our seizures of marijuana, and it's again consistently flowing West Coast to East Coast.
All right, so as you're talking between you and your colleagues, and I know Chris Hicks has said this and Dick Gamick said it before him, that Nevada law enforcement is so interconnected and helping each other. Any solutions that you can think of that would help?
You know, I think it's a twofold with law enforcement and us. You have to address the supply and you have to address the demand. So for law enforcement, I think we can't just throw our hands up and say, well, we're only getting 10%, let's just let it go. Because I think that leads to more and more crime down the road. So I think we still have to continually focus, continually work together to identify those big loads, try to get as much drugs off the street. But then on the other hand, we have to collaborate with those low-level offenders, our addicts, and try and get them some resources that aren't committing those violent felonies, those violent crimes. Maybe they're doing, which is still a very costly crime of residential burglaries, vehicle burglaries. But let's try and give them a little bit of resources before they get to that bad of a stage, because if there's no demand, then the supply dries up. So if you're attacking it from both ends, and I think that's what law enforcement needs to do, is take that lead of, look, those that we can help stop using, let's try and help them before they get bad enough where they're really committing a lot of crime in our community and destroying their own personal lives. But then let's continually put some of our resources towards getting everything that we can off the streets, off the street.
Okay, quick answer to this, because I want to go to something else in the last segment. But with the legalization of marijuana, I was kind of half expecting to see a lot of cars driving very slowly on the freeway and a lot of issues, but it doesn't seem to be that way. Am I wrong?
What we are seeing is an increase in DUI drugs. So you are seeing more crashes involving people that are under the influence of marijuana, and you are seeing more DUIs that way. So that's what you're seeing. You're not seeing them drive slowly, but you are seeing them because it slows down your actions, just like alcohol. So now we're identifying it because we've trained everybody in our region to identify those, where before maybe we didn't train them. So they were looking for alcohol, not marijuana. So now we're really focusing on that. So you're seeing an increase in DUIs under the influence of drugs.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be back with the sheriff after this timeout.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. At Design Outdoor, we specialize in all hardscapes, pavers, and walls you'll need for everything, from wonderful small yards to full-blown outdoor living. And we only refer the best contractors to make your vision a reality. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
I'm men's rights attorney Marilyn York, and because I represent men in all family law matters, women often call me gender traitor, woman hater, and even disgusting. So why represent men and target myself with these offensive monikers? It's simple. Children with fathers in their lives are 6 times less likely to drop out of school, 15 times less likely to go to prison, and 5 times less likely to commit suicide. So ladies, you can hate me, but please love your children more than you hate their fathers.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you. But we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Washoe County Sheriff Darin Balaam. When I asked Chris Hicks what kept him up at night, the last time he was on, he said the legislature with criminal justice reform. He was kidding, of course. But quick thoughts on what came out of the legislative session.
A lot of changes.
Good, bad, indifferent?
I think both ways. Some are good. Some I think you're seeing an increase in crime that we've seen now.
In what area? Just
property and violent. Everything is up in our region right now. So residential burglaries are up, commercial burglaries are up, assault and batteries are up, murder is up.
Okay, but you're tying that to what occurred to the legislature?
I think some of it when it came to property crimes, because they raised the level of amount before you could charge. So now that hammer, that if you get to this level, you have a penalty, just like when you're raising your kids. You knew if you did this, mom and dad were going to ground you. By raising that level, I think it's increased people because now they're not afraid. So what you're seeing is a lot of more vehicle burglaries out there, and they're low-level crimes. So they may go in, they get a slap on the hand, and they're back out. And so we're seeing a lot of that. A lot more people are getting out because they want to keep them incarcerated while they're waiting for trial. And so you're seeing them go out and come back, go out and come back. And those are our 20%. 20% of people commit 80% of our crime. So that 20%, if you don't keep them in, they keep coming back, unfortunately.
And that's where we got to leave it. I thank you for coming in today, and please come back soon.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
And we'll be right back. Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
Pro Group Management is the place where companies can find workers' comp solutions that are designed to meet their specific business requirements. As regulations evolve, Pro Group takes a proactive approach to clear the path to make sure your business stays ahead of the curve. Knowing your workers' comp program is optimized, you can focus on other important matters related to your growing business. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Don't forget, another way of watching Nevada Newsmakers is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nevada Newsmakers on YouTube. We'll see you on the next broadcast.